you know what they do, right? What they usually do, nobody can hear you. They usually do, right? They find where it's live, like where you live at, and then they spread it to your situation, right? So you have to do it right now, but I think, what's it called? Let's talk. Dr. Rodman is just, and then we can, there you go. Introducing the lifestyle man. So we're going to, realize that.
Welcome to Let's Talk with Dr. Robin. In this podcast, topics will be discussed that promote the daily management of life. While this information is meant to supplement your journey towards healthy emotional well-being, it is not intended to take the place of seeing a licensed mental health professional. I am Dr. Robin C. Wiley, a licensed clinical social worker with a private therapy practice in New Jersey. Thank you for joining today's conversation. Good morning, everybody. We are still in morning. Yeah, still the morning. Welcome to Let's Talk with Dr. Robin. I am Dr. Robin C. Wiley. And I am joined today. Well, first, let me say this. Well, yeah, I'm joined today by Bryce. Hello. A producer, Four Walls Productions. And we're back. We took a little hiatus, for the summer. Right. We took maybe a couple of hiatus. We took I don't know if hiatus is a word. I think it may be. But yeah, we took a couple of breaks. Summertime, taking vacations and that kind of thing. But we are back. And it's September. And it's also, today's date is 9/11. And, I can't go on without saying, how it's like 21 years ago. And of course, it's everywhere in the news.
Wow, 21 years.
Yeah,
wow.
21 years. I know. And it's like, so to me, 9/11 is, besides how it just kind of changed the world we live in. It changed, and by the world we live in, the United States.
Sure.
But also it's one of those, where were you kind of events.
It will always be that. I feel like
right.
It'll always be.
Right, where you will always remember where you were when you got that announcement. So let me ask you, Bryce, do you remember where you were?
I sure do. I was in Long Island, New York.
Oh, wow.
And rest in peace, my grandmother. She was yelling, Jay, they're killing the world. They're coming, they're getting us or something like that. And I just turned over because I was downstairs. Okay. We had this 2-family house. And I just turned over like, whatever, Pearl, they up early. I'm
okay.
tired. You know what I'm saying?
It wasn't too early in the morning. It was relatively early, but
understand, you said how many years ago?
Well, that's what I said. It's 21. So yeah, so the age that where we were age-wise, it's a little different.
Please.
It's a little
It was early.
You were like, it was early for you.
But when I went upstairs because she cooked these banana pancakes, I was trying to get some breakfast.
Okay.
And I sat down and I'm like, oh man, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I actually saw the second plane.
Oh wow!
So live on TV. So that was a tough time. My daughter, at the time, she's 23 now. So at the time she was 01, so she had just turned 2.
Mm-hmm. No idea what was happening.
Nothing. It's crazy.
Yeah. I was. I remember exactly where I was at. I was listening to the radio. I was on my way to work. Okay. I worked at a program in Camden. And I was on, and it's so crazy because I was on Route 130, and anybody that knows New Jersey, I was on Route 130, and I was almost at the spot where you turn off to get on the 30 to go, to go into Camden.
Yes.
And a little ways from there, and I heard, on the news, it was a plane just went into the Twin Towers. Yeah. Wow. I was like, wow. It was like a surreal moment of, you just didn't know. And so that whole day, I went, was into work that whole day. We were all had the TVs on. Wow. And it was just like this, we were all just kind of walking, all the staff that was there at the program, we were all just sort of walking in a daze of what is happening. And then, and then of course, because, the phone signals were messed up. and all that kind of stuff. So you're contacting family members.
Right.
Because I have a lot of family that lives in North Jersey. And
Right.
If anybody knows like Newark, places like that's like
it's New York.
like what they would call like a stone's throw from
right.
New York,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's all still New York.
So, just checking, and in particularly, my grandfather who was alive then, used to go over to Twin Towers.
Oh wow!
Or in that area, something daily to I don't know. That was just like one of his routines or something, but he didn't go. Apparently, I think the way the story goes, he didn't go that day.
Wow.
Or he had stopped going in a while. You know what I mean? Whatever. And so, so it's one of those things, and just the people that have affected. So it's definitely a very, a piece of history in our history, but also just very sad times. And in the times after that, I mean, it was.
Oh man, I was living in New York at the time, so it was it was the times when you had to
people having to walk miles to get home,
absolutely.
Everything got shut down. So
for that time, and then months after, if you went to the city,
it was forever.
You were still getting searched before you get. You know what I mean? It was just something else. But you did say something. You said you were listening to. Now you weren't listening to the news. You were.
No. I was listening to just the radio, and it came in.
The news came
and it came in. I wasn't listening to the news. No. I was listening to the news in the car. No, it just came through. It was like all of a sudden, like an announcement. Through the radio station, probably listening to like a Philly station or whatever, you know what I mean? And it just came through.
Wow.
And so, and then from there, it was like you're just watching the TV like all day, even at work. I don't think anything, and people you're just calling people to make sure everybody's okay. Folks calling that were like in another state because we're in New Jersey, other family members.
Make sure everything's good.
So it was a crazy. It was a very crazy time, and even now, there's still residual effects of that. I mean, the trauma of that event. A lot of people have had a lot of severe, significant health issues, whether it's mental health issues or physical health issues, because of that. So they've been talking about that a lot on the TV, on the news today and yesterday. So that was.
Always sad to me. That was growing up as a kid in New York, to travel from Long Island to Staten Island daily. Not daily, but every weekend for 18 years pretty much. Mm-hmm. The Twin Towers was like my favorite New York landmark. So I love those buildings.
Well, the thing is, then it was a landmark. Like from far off, you were like, oh, we're here because you saw the Twin Towers, right?
Twin Towers, yeah.
Right.
So
in other news, and we're not a news show, so this is just light stuff. Not at all. No, we're just catching up because we haven't been on air in a while. And we're gonna get into the topic for sure. Is that and the Queen Elizabeth passed.
Oh yes, rest in peace.
And so rest in peace. So we're just gonna leave that there. And I just
yeah,
that's it.
It's a sad thing, but I mean yeah. You know what? Listen,
she was 96.
96.
So I mean,
right.
and I think the thing that I'm most amazed at about that is for somebody to dedicate their life, their entire life for their country in a sense.
Greater good. It's beautiful, actually.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing to me because I don't know too many people that would just like this is what I was born to do, and this is what I got to do, and they never say. I don't really want to do that anymore.
Right. Just kept going.
Yeah, it's just 70 years.
Right. So
longest reigning monarch. You know what I mean? So
And I think that in itself, just the fact that
it's a lot of commitment.
I mean, listen, absolutely. I mean, we might look at it from the outside in, like, oh, look at that, she's royalty, she's lucky, this and that. But on the other side,
I don't know. I don't know that I would be like. I don't think I'd be thinking she's lucky.
I think as probably if we were going a time frame maybe 20-something years ago, I might have thought that. You know what I'm saying?
But you can't do what you want to do, which I think is some of the issues with
I don't even think I was even thinking like that. Yeah. Now,
I think you think about it, somebody like, just it's like this is your destiny, so this is what you have to do. So you can't do anything else. This is it.
Yeah. Almost like,
like what if she had other dreams?
Right. Like
what if she wanted to do?
Like Prince Hakeem from Zamunda?
Okay. Right. Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's a good example. Right, where you don't want to be king.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. You want to.
So
you want to do some other stuff.
Right.
And I think that's what's happening with the generations after her. Is that they're like, look, I want to do I want to be dedicated to service, but I want to do it in the way I want to do it.
Right.
And so and I think she didn't have any choices.
Right.
But that's just an interesting way of life. Like life is kind of predetermined for you.
That's interesting. Right.
Not to mention one person being kind of in charge. I mean, I can't imagine having the same president for 70 years.
70 years.
I can't imagine. I'm glad we have.
You probably go through, they've had to go through moments where I like them, I don't like them, I don't like them.
There's been controversy.
Throughout the 70s.
Well, there's been some, so I watched. There's things that's been publicized, but there's also things that's like, and I watched The Crown. I was The Crown really tells the story, but there's been things like I think, certainly with Princess Diana, there was some stuff. Gotcha. I think more recently, with Meghan Markle has talked about some things, and we will never know who was questioning the baby's complexion, but there's some things that have come out. Okay. So. But they try to be very private, and they've actually talked about how like they don't give interviews, and the reason why they don't give interviews, because they try to stay neutral. But I'm like, can you really stay neutral when you're in that position? So yeah. But we digress. Yeah. And
it's great to see you though. It's been a while since I've seen you.
It's good to see you too. It has been a while. I've been traveling and spending time with family
around the world and
Yes. Because that's important. It's important because I think, the summer for us offers us, and that's why I like coming in today because we're in September. Mm-hmm. So September is to me, and I think for a lot of people, it's like, so the summer is over, fall is
knocking at the door.
About to be upon us. Yeah, it's kind of, I think it's like, what is it, like after the 21st or something like
20, that? Yeah. People say the 20th, but I always thought it was the 21st.
Maybe so, yeah. Somebody was saying like, oh, fall is here. I was like, no, not quite.
Not yet.
Not quite.
But I do see Halloween candy.
Well, of course, that probably was out in July.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Right?
You know how that goes. They go straight from Halloween right to Christmas.
Right.
You know what I mean? You might see a little something for Thanksgiving. But that's about it. Right to Christmas.
That's it.
So, but I think September is significant in the sense where, like, school starts.
Yes.
So with school starting for whether it's no matter what you're doing, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a student, whether you post-secondary education, whatever, new routines. Trying to get back into that routine, where summer seems to be a little bit more leisure. And we kind of see summer as a leisure time. Oh, relaxing. Let me take some. Yeah. Now, maybe that's not for everybody. Some people are like, look, I work straight through, ain't nothing changed.
Yeah.
But, we're more prone to wanting to be outside, and then the winter, when the fall and winter start to set in, people also start to deal with some seasonal affective disorder, possibly, moods may change because people can't go out and be in nature or whatever. So I thought, that we would talk about, and this is kind of the introduction because we're going to be going through a series that I developed a while back called Lifestyle Balance. And I was working with a group back in the day, so to speak. And so I thought we would apply this to now. Some of the topics we've talked about before, like the check-in and self-assessment, but we're going to be talking about that a little bit more as we go forth, with resuming, weekly broadcasts.
Sure.
But just taking a moment to say, a lot of times we're trying to find that balance, the balance of all that's going on in our lives, prioritizing like what's important to us, defining what's important. Well, first defining what's important,
right,
and then prioritizing that. Like, whether it's, a lot of people are like, their peace is what's important to them, right, or self-care is what's important. So the idea of, how do you make that? How do you balance that? How do you put that in perspective with everything else that you have to do? Right. And especially when September comes in because you're back to those routines.
Right.
I was talking to, when I've talked to clients this week, everybody's talking about like kids going back to school and then extracurricular activities that are happening. So all of that kind of stuff.
All at one time. That's
right.
The thing.
All at once.
All at one time.
Yeah, all at once. So there's and then you're back into the hustle and bustle. Yeah. So now you might be getting up earlier. Kids are definitely getting up earlier.
Oh, yeah. You got to find the stride again.
Right.
That's why September, it's like one of those transitional months.
It is.
Would you say? Is that fair to say?
I think it is. I know. I was like, I'm going to take my jacket off.
No, it happens.
I was like, but yeah, I do. I agree with that. It is a transitional month.
Yeah.
I think, because we're also trying to figure out like, okay, you think you're trying to prepare for, because a lot of times during the summer, people are like, oh, I'm trying to prepare. I know September is hitting, but then you're never really fully prepared.
Sure.
Because you're like, okay, now all of a sudden we didn't have to get out the house until 8. Now we got to get out the house at 6:30.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or just everything that you got to do, like stuff that now you're doing stuff night before or whatever. Yeah. So it is transitional, and it can be transitional because sometimes you realize that leaning back and that leisure time during the summer, now
It's
you
over.
have to do.
Right. It's over.
Yeah, it's over. And I think also too, then you're like, okay, we got to get in the hustle. We got to get in the hustle of it.
And that's the thing. And that's, I think sometimes the reason why I said this transitional, because it, like that first day, I'm, I don't know if I ever, mentioned it on the show or whatever, but I'm a guidance counselor, right? So like that first day of school, that day after, I was beat.
Oh yeah, that's the thing too. Yeah, you're tired, right?
Like I was beat.
Right.
And then it's like, and then you got to turn around and do it all over. I almost burned the day. I almost burned the call out. Like, I'm tired.
You said
I almost did.
Like it's been 2 days in. I need to take a day.
Right. You know what I mean?
Because we've been so relaxed. So I think
been so relaxed.
So that's why I was thinking like, okay, I said, it's a good time to really talk about how do we balance all that? Because people are striving to balance, to have that work life, private life, family life, all that, to balance all that.
Sure.
And so it's, it's not always easy.
Right.
And, thinking about that, like what's important to us, because we always talk about like, well, what's your why? Why are you doing the things you do?
Right.
And so a lot of times if we look at defining that helps to motivate us, or to see what we need to maybe, if we need to clean house a little bit, if we need to not commit to some things, or we need to say no to some things. But that can require us, to assess, because what's our priority, what might have been our priority, like, 2 years ago,
right,
or even last year, may not be our priority now.
Right.
So this can change. So our priorities can change as we change,
and as the seasons change. I
right,
think,
and
too.
as
like,
right, and as the seasons change, right.
Because the summer, you could feel one way at the beginning of the summer. And at the end of the summer, it'd be totally different.
Yeah, feel totally different by the end of the summer. Exactly. Feel totally different by the end of the summer. So before we get into like the series, because it's going to be some different things,
sure.
And I think this may go into some stuff we were talking about before we started the show. But so the lifestyle balance is it's like a 10-part, close to like a 10-part series. And so I know, because it really is, and we'll be touching upon some little snippets, because this was actually a group that I did.
Gotcha.
With men, actually.
Gotcha.
Back in the day. So, about those. And so actually the first thing we talk about is those transitions. Transitions, how do we handle transitions? Because that's a big thing. And we're constantly having transitions in our life.
Right.
Whether we acknowledge it or not. And sometimes so we may acknowledge the transition, but we may not acknowledge how it affects us.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when we don't acknowledge that, then we're still having to process and deal with those feelings and maybe not know how to deal with them.
Yeah.
Some other topics are like expectations, fear of success, motivation, planning, setting goals, support systems, talking about where our support comes from external of us, but also the idea of supporting yourself, self-assessment or the check-in, and then generating solutions. Because a lot of times we can be very focused on this is what the problem is, this is what's happening, and this is what's causing me the stress. Right. But what's the solution that we can generate? And so speaking of that, we were talking earlier about, sometimes we extend ourselves. I won't even say we overextend, but we extend ourselves for whatever reason, trying to help, trying to do nice stuff.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Yep. And then we at some point recognize that
probably shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, probably wasn't a good idea.
Yeah.
Or why was that wasn't a good idea? I think good intentions were there, but it has not worked out the way that we anticipated it would work out. Yeah. And sometimes we do that professionally. We were talking about professionally, and sometimes we do that personally. We do that in our personal lives where we just don't set the boundaries. And so we're talking about how sometimes if you have like a friendship and then you do something for somebody and then it does not work out or things just go awry, we can take that personally.
No, you can. Like you very much so can. I mean, as I ponder in my mind, what I'm saying? I think that's where, I myself, just transparently speaking, I still struggle with that. And part of that is with, you just mentioned the word prior to everything you just said. And you said something called expectation. Right. And I think that's what my struggle is. My struggle is because I expected more. Right. You can expect more. Yes. Instead of, it's almost like it's actually my fault, right? Because now I look at it and think about it because I need to meet people I guess we got to meet people where they are and not have an expectation. That's my expectation, maybe. I don't know.
Let me say this one. Because this is something I say, this is one of my little like sayings that I use, you know what I mean? And it's you know, I say it in a couple of different ways, but one of the things I always tell, and I tell clients this, I try to look at this myself definitely, is that we have this way of trying to create expectations for people based on the role that they play in our lives or how we see them.
Great point.
You know what I mean? So like, oh, you're my friend, so I expect you to do X, Y, and Z or whatever. Versus who they actually are, personality wise or based on behavior.
Right. And wait
a minute, and let me just say this. Let me just hold that thought.
Right, yeah.
So what happens is I shouldn't expect something from you when you haven't shown me that you can do that. It's not to say that people can't change, but if somebody does something, then your expectation should probably, and this goes hand in hand with what you're saying, meet somebody where they are. Your expectation should really be based on who they are, not who they are to you.
Okay.
Because who they are to you.
That's a great point.
You know what I mean? Like, because I get it. It's like, because a lot of times we base our expectations on what we would do if we were in that role with us. So what I would do would be X, Y, and Z. And so then we place and so those are almost like they're unrealistic expectations.
Yeah. That was not, I don't even have nothing else to say after that.
No.
Because
it's based on what they do.
Right. Not who they are, not who they, based on who they are, not who they are to me.
Right. Right.
That's
what profound. Role they are in. Right.
Right.
So I kind of do, when I do talk about this, a lot of times it revolves around, like a lot of times when, people come in, we're talking about, past parent stuff or whatever.
Right.
And I often bring that up because I said, we're looking at expecting from our quote unquote parent based on the fact that they're a parent, what a parent should do. So that's the role that they're in.
Right.
But that may be separate from the person that they are. You have and also too, what behavior have they shown you?
Right.
So, and again, I'm not saying people can't change because people can change, but they have to realize that they need to change.
Right.
But our expectations still need to be realistic based on what they've shown. So I'm going to expect from you, or I should expect from you based on what you've shown me. What you've shown me, not based on what I think you should be doing.
Yeah.
I can verbalize that depending on how significant you are in my life. I can verbalize that to you. I can say, I thought, or this is, but that's me thinking. That's not what you necessarily going to do.
Right. Or who you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my experience.
Or who you are. And that's really, I think that's really what's significant.
That's the point. That's what I'm saying. It's profound.
Right. And so when somebody shows you, like, what is it? Maya Angelou.
My mama used to say,
somebody showed you to believe them.
Right.
Yes, believe
my
them.
mama used to say.
Right. And again, we hope that people can change, but the key word there is hope.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not selling hope. Okay,
because
hope is right. I'm just saying I'm not selling hope because hope is sometimes you can hope a lot and nothing still happens and you will just be hoping yourself into disappointment.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think expectations.
That's profound. That's really profound. That might be like life changing.
Well, and I think it helps us too sometimes because that having realistic expectations, can kind of calm us, can kind of, because we get frustrated when we feel like people aren't doing what I think they should do. And we've all been there. I've been there too. You expect something from somebody, they let you down, or you feel like they're not doing what you think they should do. Yeah. And you feel let down. It's not that they let you down. We interpret it as a letdown.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because people are bringing their own stuff to the table.
Sure. But I think I don't know if I've ever heard it said like that. That's what I'm saying. Like, so it's almost like it unlocked me. I always take good information.
Well, it can make you look at it differently.
But I look at it like, wow, you're right. Like, you know what? No, I have an expectation of you, but that's not what's happening. What's happening? I'm sorry. I need to deal with everyone based upon just who you are,
right? And what you show me,
and what you shown,
not necessarily what you say.
But what you've shown.
What you show. Yeah. Because what happens is, we are, I'm sure anybody that has anybody older in your family, it will say, words speak.
Yeah.
I mean, actions speak louder than words.
But you'd be surprised. I think at some point, I'm going to say recently within the last 3, 4, 5 months, that's still recent. I think people have tried to, kind of, convince me that, what are my words saying? And if my words are saying this, and you should change your viewpoint. I said, no. See, my mama told me that people could tell you anything.
Yeah, and people will tell you anything. And they might believe it themselves.
But it's like your actions. It's
right.
It's like
your actions.
It brings me back to this. Will Smith apologized to Chris Rock.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Yeah, I know. I heard something a little bit about that, but I was like, okay.
But he's an actor, and that's all I'm gonna say. I'm just so that's all.
And also, too, hindsight is always 20/20. So what you think about and you also realize what it has cost you, and sometimes and we talked about that decision making, what it costs long term, can be a lot more. It's funny. So I was doing a little workshop yesterday. I was over in Philadelphia yesterday at a program that we're partnering with to do some community work.
Sure.
And I was doing a stress management kind of workshop with some kids.
Okay.
And it was funny because we talked about what types of things are stressing you out and that kind of stuff. And so we were saying how the responses to it. And so we kind of got into about decision making because one of the young ladies, it's her sibling, and he said something, and she just immediately reached over and just hit him on the arm or whatever.
Right.
I said, but we want to make sure that however we respond to something doesn't cause us more problems. And remember, that's what I was saying. But the decision, I was like, whatever decision you make, you want to make sure that decision does not cause you more problems. Right.
Absolutely.
And so, to me, it's when you think about words to live by, that's a phrase to live by, because what happens is you can make an instant decision, as Will Smith did, whatever. Right. And then the residual effects of that, the problems that come from that, can be so much more greater.
Right.
And that's what is happening, because I'm sure he's lost some deals.
Oh, yeah, big time.
I'm sure, people are going to second guess. I mean, he may not ever be able to come to another award show. It's going to be a minute.
Right. But the authenticity.
And reputation.
Big time.
Yeah,
but the authenticity of...
Well, yeah.
I just want to apologize. I mean, I'm talking about in the mind, I just want to apologize. It's and some people are like, oh my God, yes. But I'm like, those are just words now.
Right. So what are you doing?
And he's a great actor.
But didn't he go to didn't he go to some kind of retreat or something?
He did all the.
You always got to go to a retreat.
Right. Anytime you mess up in the public, you got to go to retreat, a little counseling.
Yeah.
And I'm addressing. It's all PR.
Little program.
Right.
Yeah, somebody steps in. Hopefully, the sad part is somebody didn't step in beforehand.
Right.
Somebody didn't reach over and say, "Don't."
But very profound, though, Dr. Robin. I mean, that is. That's the key. That's a key to life, because people will tell you anything. People will have you believe it. There's so many people that I can only imagine that they're around people and they think certain people are for them, and their actions are just not. But I do think, one thing I do want to say is there's a fine line. If I call somebody my friend, I do have an expectation of them as my friend, though.
Right. And I mean, and that's probably why and I'm not saying that, because we have friends that they will be there for us.
Sure.
But even the closest of friends can maybe do something that you were like, oh, that threw me off a little bit, you did that. And that's because, it's people. So people go through different stuff, different stages of life, whatever.
That's true.
And also, too, we never know how, people's past experiences.
That's true.
Because we're all operating with that stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And a lot of times the decisions we make are a direct result of some of those things that we've come to terms with. So because of that, so I mean, you also have to, we also have to be, a little forgiving and that kind of thing. But it depends. It depends on what it is. Or we have to set the boundary to know that, okay, I expected that from you. Right. You've shown me that you're not able to do that. So therefore, it's unfair for me to expect that from you going forward.
Right.
It's unfair to you. And it's more importantly, unfair to me, because I'm the person that's going to be disappointed.
Right.
So that's where the boundary kicks in. So it might mean that I've got to establish a more concrete boundary, which is I'm not going to be bothered with you. Right. it might mean that. Or it might just mean that, you fit into, and not to say, I hate to say a box kind of situation, but it's just like you can't tell everybody everything and you can't do everything with everybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
that's
the thing I realized.
I'm quick to quarantine someone.
Well, yeah.
Okay, like,
the quarantine.
I'm quick on that. I'm a 3 to 5 day, and that's the last time we talked.
Yeah, no, we didn't talk about it. Yes, we
I'm
talked
a 3
about
to
your
5 day. Like,
we didn't talk about your quarantine in 3 to 5.
Yeah, because I got to process it.
Which I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I just think it depends on who it is. You know what I mean? Like it depends on who it is, and it depends on the level. Because the relationship that you have with somebody really should determine
how long,
the significance of the relationship. Just if you want to address something with them. Like some people,
that's true.
It's not worth your energy to address something with them because how significant is a relationship? How I just was having a conversation the other day. And a professional conversation, and it was some back and forth. And at some point, I just was like how when people text me, like, okay,
right.
And not that always means like I'm shutting it down, but sometimes that does. But my response was the equivalent of okay, because to me, I don't need to continue to put energy into this conversation.
Right, exactly.
Because one, and I'm going to say this because I knew I was right.
Right.
What I was saying in this particular professional conversation, I knew what I was saying was right.
Right.
And I knew nothing based on the facts of what I knew about the situation. Nothing was going to change that. So I just said, it's no point in me. I'm not going to keep going back and forth. What's the point of that?
Right.
That's just going to aggravate me more.
Right.
And the thing is with us looking at, because part of balancing life is also realizing not to bring more stress into your life unnecessarily.
So picking your battles, so to speak.
And that's so funny because that's been a theme too. I always feel like sometimes in my sessions for the week, there are themes of things.
I'm sure they are.
And I've had a couple of people that have talked about you pick your battles. And that means a lot. That means a lot of different things. That can mean avoidance of some stuff, but that can also mean it's not worth it. Yeah, because it can be good and bad.
It can be.
But I think as a rule of thumb, picking your battles kind of means, you know what? It's where you want to put your energy. Do you want to put your energy in that?
Right.
No. So if you don't, then don't put it there.
Don't even put it there.
People spend a lot of time being in arguments and in these conflicts with folks where it's like, first of all, they always say you got to be mindful of who you arguing with because is this person even able
to understand where you're coming from?
Right. Or even a good conversation, a productive conversation. So sometimes we just have to, our energy is precious. You know what I mean? So we have to kind of,
absolutely.
we have to covet it. You know what I mean? So I think that's it for today. We will be back next week. Where we're going to start Lifestyle Balance, the series. And also too, because we tabled it, we were trying to do guests during the summer.
Yes.
But I do have some guests lined up. So we're going to get that. So we'll try to make some announcements for that. I'll send out some emails this week and confirm some folks. We're going to have a very popular, famous guest on, I think, first. I know.
Look forward to that.
Yeah, I think it'll be quite the conversation.
I look forward to that.
We just got to figure out where we're going to fit him into lifestyle balance.
Right.
But to me, he's he's family to me.
Okay.
But he is definitely somebody who is quite the popular person.
Oh yeah.
Quite the popular person. Has a lot of profound things to say.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
And I have a few family folks, people that I consider family that are doing some really great things. And I'm very impressed with that.
This is good stuff.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So until we talk next time, be well, be great, be you.